Perhaps money has not yet come into your life because, for too long, you were taught to beg when you should have been learning how to command. Pause for a moment and let that idea enter your mind gently, not as a strange thought, not as fantasy, not as wishful thinking, but as a spiritual truth that may completely transform the way you relate to prosperity, provision, and the invisible laws that govern your life. Since childhood, perhaps you learned to ask for the right opportunity. You learned to ask for stability, to ask for recognition, to ask for life to finally change. Perhaps you watched people around you struggle, worry, sacrifice, and repeat the same old phrases. Money is hard, life is unfair, abundance is for other people, nothing comes easily, one must suffer in order to deserve. And without realizing it, those words entered your consciousness like seeds. But there is a spiritual truth that very few people perceive clearly. The energy of the one who begs is completely different from the energy of the one who declares. Begging often comes from absence. Declaration comes from certainty. Begging says, I do not have it. I am missing it. It is far away from me. Declaration says, I accept, I receive, I allow. This comes to me by divine right. And life responds, not only to what you say once, but to the frequency you hold every day. When a person lives saying, I need, I hope, maybe someday, if only life would change, that person remains in the vibration of lack, distance, waiting, and uncertainty, not because the universe is punishing them, but because their own consciousness is affirming separation. But when someone inwardly assumes, this already belongs to me, I accept it, I receive it, I determine it, I speak the word of faith, and I allow divine good to manifest, something begins to change invisibly. Because words were never merely words. Every word is a direction. Every phrase repeated with emotion is an instruction sent into the subconscious mind. Every declaration held with feeling begins to form an invisible pattern that, in time, seeks expression in the outer world. According to the spiritual principles often associated with Florence Scovel Shinn, the spoken word, when filled with conviction, acts as a decree. It is not empty sound. It is not powerless repetition. It is a creative force when it comes from faith, clarity, and a consciousness aligned with good. And perhaps, without realizing it, you have used your own voice against yourself for years, repeating fear, repeating doubt, repeating scarcity, repeating, I cannot, repeating, there is never enough, repeating, money never stays, repeating, everything is hard for me, as if every day you were programming your own reality, not from your true spiritual power, but from an old identity built out of worry. But today, that begins to change. Today, you are not here by accident. Today, you begin to understand that your word can stop being a chain and become a key. You are going to learn how to speak from a new inner authority, not from desperation, not from anxiety, not from fear, but from the quiet certainty of one who knows that abundance is a spiritual law and that the mind, when rightly directed, can open ways that once seemed closed. Today, you will learn a powerful decree, a decree that must not be spoken as one who is begging, but as one who has finally awakened to spiritual authority. And if you remain present until the end, you will not merely hear these words. You will begin to feel something shifting within you, because there is a sacred moment when the mind stops resisting and begins to accept a new identity. There is a moment when the soul becomes tired of repeating lack and chooses to speak faith. There is a moment when a person stops living like a beggar before life and begins to walk as an heir to divine good. That moment can be now. Close your eyes for a few seconds. If you can do so safely, breathe deeply. Let your body relax. Let your mind become quiet. And for a moment, imagine what your life would feel like if money were no longer a constant worry. Imagine waking up in peace, without fear, without anxiety, without that feeling of always running after something that never seems to arrive. Imagine looking at your bills without heaviness in your chest. Imagine making decisions from serenity instead of urgency. Imagine living with dignity, freedom, and calm assurance, knowing that the right provision appears, that the right doors open, and that divine intelligence guides your steps. Imagine looking at your life and feeling that the flow has finally begun. Perhaps abundance was never as far away from you as you believed. Perhaps it was not blocked by destiny. Perhaps it was not reserved for other people. Perhaps it was simply waiting for a clear command, a firm word, a new consciousness, and a deep acceptance. And today, you will learn how to issue that command. There is an invisible law operating in your life at this very moment, even if you have never recognized it. It is silent, constant, precise, and it responds not to what you desire occasionally, but to what you affirm repeatedly every day. It responds to your habitual language. It responds to your inner identity. It responds to the image you hold of yourself. It responds to what you accept as possible. It responds to the emotion behind your words. That is why, before you change your financial reality, you must begin by changing the inner language that has sustained your old reality. Because money is not only a number, it also represents circulation, value, exchange, permission, deserving, confidence, and order. And when your consciousness is filled with fear, circulation becomes narrow. But when your consciousness begins to speak from faith, the way opens. Declare softly within yourself, "My word is a seed of power. My thoughts are guided toward good. Divine order now governs my life. Abundance finds perfect ways to reach me. I stop speaking scarcity, and I begin speaking provision." Feel these words. Do not analyze them yet. Let them enter like light into a room that has been closed for too long. Because today, a new conversation begins between your soul, your word, and life. According to the spiritual teachings associated with Florence Scovel Shinn, the subconscious mind does not analyze whether an idea is good or bad for you. It does not debate your declarations. It does not stop to ask whether you truly want to experience what you keep repeating. It simply receives commands. Everything you repeat with emotion, with fear, with conviction, or with expectation begins to register internally as truth. And then, that inner truth begins to shape your outer experience. This is why so many people remain trapped in the same cycle for years. Not because they lack talent, not because they lack value, not because life is against them, but because, without realizing it, they feed their own limitations through repeated words. Every day they say, "Money is hard. My life never moves forward. I am not lucky. There is never anything left. Everything disappears. I am always behind. No matter how much I work, I never prosper." And the most striking thing is that these phrases seem harmless. They seem like casual comments. They seem like momentary complaints. But spiritually, they function as decrees. They become invisible orders continually sent into the subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind, obedient like fertile soil, begins to produce according to what is planted. If you plant fear, experiences compatible with fear will grow. If you plant lack, your attention will look for more evidence of lack. If you plant difficulty, your mind will find obstacles even where possibilities exist. But if you plant faith, order, provision, expansion, and gratitude, a new direction begins to establish itself. The emotional mind begins to create patterns compatible with what it accepts. More delays, more closed doors, more anxiety, more worry, or, on the other hand, more clarity, more intuition, more opportunities, more peace, and more right action. Because life does not respond only to your wishes. It responds to your inner identity. It responds to what you believe you deserve. It responds to the frequency you hold when no one is watching. It responds to what you silently say when you look at your bank account, when a bill arrives, when you see someone else prosper, when you think about your future. Think of how many times you desired prosperity, but spent the rest of the day focused on lack. You desired abundance, but felt fear when looking at your money. You wanted a new life, but inwardly repeated, "That is not for me." You asked for an opportunity, but at the same time told yourself, no one will choose me. You dreamed of freedom, but spoke as if you were condemned to limitation. Do you see the contradiction? One part of the mind desires wealth. Another part continues obeying scarcity. One part says, I want to prosper. Another whispers, I am not enough. One part dreams of expansion. Another clings to the old story. And as long as this division exists, the flow remains blocked, because you do not receive merely what you beg for. You receive what you assume to be true. That is the spiritual shift. The universe begins to move when your identity changes, when your language changes, when your energy changes, when you stop repeating like a servant of circumstances and begin speaking as one who recognizes a partnership with divine intelligence. That is why the right words, spoken in the right way, can begin to transform your financial reality. Now pay close attention, because perhaps the greatest financial block in your life is not in the outer world. Perhaps it is not in the economy, not in other people, not in the past, and not in the opportunities that seemed not to arrive. Perhaps it is hidden in the phrases you repeat every day without noticing. Phrases that seem ordinary, automatic, small, but are extremely powerful. I cannot. My life is difficult. Money never stays. Everything goes wrong for me. I work so much and never prosper. I always have to struggle. Nothing comes easily to me. Perhaps you have already said one of these today. Perhaps you inherited them. Perhaps you heard them so often that they began to feel normal. But what is normal is not always true. Sometimes what is normal is simply a belief repeated for generations. And the problem is not only in the words. The problem is in the emotion that accompanies them. Because every phrase repeated with feeling becomes an instruction to the subconscious mind. And the subconscious does not argue, question, or filter. It only executes. It is like fertile soil. Whatever is planted continually begins to grow, even scarcity. Many people consciously desire prosperity, but emotionally feed poverty. And this contradiction creates invisible blocks. While the mouth asks for abundance, the mind continues affirming limitation. Then life responds to the stronger signal, not to the momentary wish, but to the constant repetition. There is a phrase that can change everything you understand about financial manifestation. The universe does not only hear what you want, it hears what you repeat. Feel the weight of this truth. Perhaps for years you trained your mind to expect difficulty. You trained your body to live in anxiety. You trained your energy to believe that lack was normal. And the more fear you felt, the more delays appeared. The more anxiety you fed, the farther prosperity seemed. The more you observed lack, the more your mind confirmed it as real. That is the invisible cycle that imprisons millions of people. It is not only lack of money, it is emotional programming. It is an identity built in scarcity. But there is good news. Everything that has been conditioned can also be reprogrammed. The same mind that learned fear can learn abundance. The same voice that repeated limitation can begin decreeing prosperity. The same consciousness that became accustomed to expecting little can open itself to receiving more. And the moment of that change begins now. Declare within yourself, I renounce the words that deny my good. I renounce the identity of lack. My mind now accepts a new truth. Abundance is safe for me. Divine provision expresses itself in my life in perfect ways. I speak the right word, and the right path opens. Do not say it with strain. Say it with calm. Say it as one remembering an ancient truth. Say it as one returning home within the soul. There is a silent moment, almost invisible, when a person stops living as someone in lack and begins to position themselves as someone aligned with abundance. That moment changes everything. Until that moment, perhaps they believed they had to beg life, ask permission, wait for approval, hope that something would happen, wait for the outer world to change before they could feel free within. But then they awaken and perceive a deep spiritual truth. What belongs to you by divine right does not need to be begged for. It needs to be accepted. This is where the great shift happens. Constant asking can place the mind in a position of absence. The one who begs unconsciously affirms, "I do not have it. It is far away. Perhaps I will never receive it. Perhaps I am not worthy. Perhaps it is not for me." But commanding is different. Commanding does not mean arrogance. It does not mean ego. It does not mean trying to control life by force. It does not mean demanding from impatience or vanity. To command, in the spiritual sense, means to assume inner authority. It means to speak from faith. It means to stop vibrating desperation and begin vibrating certainty. It means understanding that you are not separated from abundance. You are part of it. The source of good is not far away. Divine intelligence is not confused. Provision is not lost. The flow has not forgotten you. Breathe deeply now and allow this idea to enter you slowly. Perhaps for the first time, you are understanding that prosperity is not something only a few chosen people receive. It is an inner state that must be authorized by your own consciousness. And everything begins in the way you speak, in the way you think, in the way you position yourself before life. So from this moment forward, you will stop saying, "Maybe someday," and you will begin declaring, "I accept what is already moving in my direction." You will stop saying, "I do not know how I will get out of this," and you will begin declaring, "Divine intelligence guides me to the perfect solution." You will stop saying, "Money is never enough," and you will begin declaring, "Divine provision is abundant, ordered, and sufficient." You will stop saying, "This is impossible for me," and you will begin declaring, "The way opens in a perfect, divine, and unexpected manner." This change may seem simple, but energetically it completely alters the frequency you emit. Because when there is conviction, the subconscious responds. When there is clarity, the mind begins looking for pathways. When there is emotional certainty, life finds unexpected ways to open doors. This is why the decree must be made in the right way. Not as an empty sentence, not as a mechanical repetition, not as a prayer spoken with fear, but as a felt truth, with emotion, with presence, with mental imagery, with repetition, with gratitude, with deep acceptance. The more you repeat a new state, the more your identity begins to accept it. And when your identity changes, your reality begins to follow. So from this moment, repeat inwardly, "I stop begging for what already belongs to me by divine right." Once again, "I stop begging for what already belongs to me by divine right." Feel the weight of those words, not as hardness, but as firmness, like a key turning in an invisible door, like an old story beginning to dissolve. Perhaps the flow of abundance has only been waiting for the moment when you finally decide to assume your spiritual power. Now, before speaking the main decree, you must enter the correct state, because it is not only the words that create transformation, it is the energy placed within them. A phrase spoken with fear carries fear. A phrase spoken with doubt carries doubt. A phrase spoken mechanically produces only empty repetition. But a phrase spoken with presence, emotion, certainty, and alignment has the power to reach deeply into the subconscious mind. So, for a few moments, slow down. Let your mind become still. Breathe slowly and deeply. Inhale. Hold for a few seconds. Exhale gently. Once more. Feel your body relaxing. Feel your thoughts becoming quieter. Feel the tension leaving your shoulders. Feel that you do not need to solve your entire life in this instant. You only need to enter a new consciousness. Now close your eyes if you can, and imagine something important. For a few minutes, you are no longer the person worried about bills. You are no longer the person tired of struggling. You are no longer the version limited by fear of scarcity. You are no longer the old story repeating itself again and again. You are entering a new identity, an identity aligned with prosperity, with flow, with deserving, with abundance, with peace, with right action, with divine intuition. And perhaps the most important thing of all is this: You do not need to wait for money to arrive in order to feel peace. You need to feel peace in order to allow the flow to begin. Because emotion activates the command. It is emotion that signals to the subconscious, this is real, this is safe, this now belongs to me. So visualize. Imagine your life organized, the bills paid, financial calm, opportunities arising, relief, freedom, dignity, peace. Feel as though all of this has already begun to happen. Do not force anything. Simply allow. Because in this moment, you are not only repeating words, you are emitting a new frequency. You are communicating to life that a new consciousness is awakening within you. And when consciousness changes, reality slowly begins to reorganize around it. Now listen with absolute attention. What you are about to say must not be spoken with doubt. It must not be spoken as someone desperate. It must not come out of your mouth loaded with fear. These words must be declared with presence, conviction, and spiritual authority. Because life responds to certainty. It responds to the feeling behind the phrase. It responds to the inner state you hold while speaking. So take one more deep breath. Let your mind become completely quiet. For a few moments, release logic. Release the how. Release the need to control every detail. Do not try to imagine every path. You do not need to know which door your good will come through. You do not need to understand every invisible movement. Simply allow these words to find space within you. Now repeat slowly, feeling each phrase as if you were opening an invisible door before your life. Universe, send now $1 million into my life in the perfect, divine, and unexpected way. Pause. I accept. Pause. I allow. Deeper pause. I receive. Breathe. Feel the energy of these words moving through your mind, your body, and your consciousness. Perhaps a part of you wants to doubt. Perhaps logic tries to interrupt this moment. Perhaps an old voice says, that cannot be. That is too much. That has never happened to me. Do not fight that voice. Do not feed it. Do not make it your truth. Simply continue allowing. Because every great transformation begins first in the invisible. First the thought changes, then the emotion changes, then the identity changes, and finally, the outer world begins to move according to the new consciousness. Perhaps in this very instant, something has already begun to change within you. Now, before transforming your reality, you must transform the way you see yourself. Because identity creates destiny. Most people try to change their life without changing the consciousness that created their current life. They want new results, but keep the same words. They want abundance, but keep speaking lack. They want freedom, but see themselves as prisoners. They want prosperity, but feel guilty about receiving. But the outer world eventually reflects what the mind accepts as truth. So in this moment, do not repeat the next words as simple phrases. Repeat them as decrees, as a new identity being born within you. Breathe deeply and declare mentally, I am abundance. Pause. I am prosperity. Pause. I am conscious wealth. Slower pause. I was born to live in expansion. Feel this. There is a great difference between desiring prosperity and recognizing yourself as someone naturally connected with it. When you say, I am abundance, you stop looking outside for what begins within. You are not saying your value depends on money. You are not worshiping a number. You are recognizing that divine life within you is fertile, expansive, creative, and capable of expressing good in many forms. The more your mind accepts this identity, the more your behavior changes, your energy changes, your decisions change, your intuition becomes clearer. You begin to recognize opportunities that once passed unnoticed. Reality begins to accompany the image you hold within. So, once again, I am abundance. I am prosperity. I am conscious wealth. My words are filled with power and peace. Divine intelligence guides me toward perfect good. Divine order now opens my way. Let these words enter your subconscious mind like seeds planted in fertile soil. Now we are going to remove an old idea. the idea that money must always come through suffering. Many people have associated prosperity with exhaustion, with extreme sacrifice, with survival, with fear, with tension, with guilt. They learned that receiving much was dangerous, that abundance was selfish, that prosperity was for others, and that they had to remain where they were. But abundance flows more freely when there is inner alignment. This does not mean doing nothing. It means acting from peace, intuition, order, and right consciousness. Right action born from faith is more powerful than 1,000 actions born from panic. So visualize your financial life beginning to open. Imagine opportunities arising in unexpected ways, the right people appearing, new doors opening quietly, bright ideas entering your mind, practical solutions revealing themselves, a message, a call, a connection, a proposal, an inspiration, a correct decision. And while you visualize, repeat, money comes to me with ease. Pause. New sources of income arise constantly. Pause. Wealth flows into my life every day. Breathe. I attract unexpected opportunities. Feel the sensation of security growing within you. Imagine your bank account increasing. Imagine the relief of no longer living worried all the time. Imagine the freedom of responding to life with calm instead of fear. Because when the mind stops resisting, the flow begins to find space. Repeat again. Money comes to me with ease. Once more, wealth flows into my life every day. And now declare with deeper softness, as one speaking from profound faith, I do not chase my good. Divine good finds me. I do not force the way. The perfect way opens. I do not speak from fear. I speak from certainty. Abundance expresses itself in my life under grace and in perfect order. Many people do not block prosperity because they lack ability. They block it through guilt, through fear, through the unconscious belief that they must suffer in order to deserve, through the belief that wealth is distant, through the feeling that abundance is for a few and that they must always remain in the same place. But today, you begin to release that weight. Breathe deeply and allow these words to silently heal what has been conditioned within you for years. I deserve to live in abundance. Pause. I accept everything that is mine by divine right. Slow pause. I do not need to suffer in order to prosper. Breathe. Wealth can come with peace. Feel the relief in these words. You do not need to live in constant tension to prove your worth. You do not need to carry fear in order to feel responsible. You do not need to reject good in order to appear humble. True humility does not mean denying divine provision. It means receiving with gratitude, using wisely, and recognizing that every good thing comes from a greater source. Abundance can also come through lightness, through harmony, through alignment, through right intuition, through a word spoken at the perfect time, through clear action, through a door that opens without struggle. So repeat again, I deserve to live in abundance. And now add, my prosperity blesses my life and blesses others. I receive with gratitude. I use good with wisdom. Divine wealth circulates in me and through me in perfect order. There is an invisible intelligence organizing paths, even when you cannot see it. And perhaps many things are already moving behind the scenes in your life right now. Perhaps an opportunity is being prepared. Perhaps the right person is being guided toward you. Perhaps an idea that seems small will become a great door. Perhaps a solution is already forming, even though your eyes cannot yet perceive it. So allow yourself to feel trust, even without controlling everything, even without knowing exactly how. Faith does not need to see every step. Faith takes the right step when divine intuition indicates it. Repeat slowly. Infinite intelligence guides my paths. Pause. Everything cooperates for my good. Pause. I am aligned with the perfect plan. Breathe deeply. The universe works with me. Feel that connection. You are not alone. You are not abandoned. You are not separated from good. There is a greater flow working silently. And when you stop fighting life, life begins to cooperate with you. Now is the moment to reclaim the power of your own voice. For a long time, Perhaps you believed you were a victim of circumstances, money, luck, the past, other people, opportunities that did not arrive, or doors that closed. But there is power within you, more than you imagine. And everything begins when you decide to take command of your own consciousness. So declare, my word has power. Pause. My mind creates possibilities. Firmer pose. I assume authority over my inner reality. Breathe. I stop living in limitation. Feel the strength of these words. Every outer change begins as an inner decision. And in this moment, you are training your mind to stop obeying fear. Now, release the weight. Release anxiety. Release the constant fear of scarcity. You do not need to carry that tension all the time. You do not need to watch life as if it were always about to fail you. Breathe deeply and let go slowly. Meanwhile, repeat, I release the fear of scarcity. Pause. My mind is at peace. Slow pause. I trust the flow of life. Breathe. Everything arrives in perfect time. Feel calm entering you. Because prosperity also requires emotional space. A mind in constant war cannot perceive opportunities, but a peaceful mind begins to see paths that were once invisible. Now, visualize doors opening. Visualize people recognizing your value. Visualize your work growing, your abilities being rewarded, your name reaching the right places, your energy attracting better decisions, your mind receiving useful, practical, profitable, and blessed ideas. There is a new future trying to find you. And while you visualize, declare, the right opportunities find me. Pause. My work prospers. Pause. I am valued for what I do. Breathe. Success is part of my identity. Feel the expansion of these words, because success is not an accident. It begins as an inner permission. It begins when you stop rejecting what is good. It begins when your mind stops saying, I am not capable, and begins saying, I am guided, I am prepared, I am sustained. Today, you are beginning to allow a new reality. Now simply relax and let these words enter deeply into your subconscious mind, without effort, without resistance, without anxiety. Only allow. I receive. Pause. I allow. Pause. I accept. Breathe slowly. Abundance has already begun. Deeper pause. Money comes. The flow increases. Everything is changing. Once again, I receive. I allow. I accept. Feel as though something is silently reorganizing within you, because perhaps it is. Perhaps in this very moment, the old image of yourself is beginning to lose power. Perhaps the person who expected difficulty is giving way to a consciousness that is more luminous, more firm, more prosperous. Now enter this moment completely, without fear, without doubt, without resistance, only presence. Breathe deeply and declare from the heart, I am light. Pause. I am love. Slow pause. I am infinite abundance. Breathe. Everything cooperates for my good. Deeper pause. The impossible begins to open before me. Feel this. Feel as though a new energy is awakening within your consciousness, as if an old weight is slowly disappearing, as if new possibilities are finally finding space in your life. Because perhaps life was only waiting for this moment, the moment when you would stop vibrating scarcity and begin recognizing your own spiritual power. Now continue breathing slowly. Allow your mind to remain calm for a few more moments. No hurry to return, no anxiety, no effort. Simply feel. After so many years of living in tension, perhaps your soul needed exactly this: silence, peace, hope, a new word, a clear command, a higher certainty. And in this lighter state, visualize your life beginning to change. Imagine waking up without that constant worry about money. Imagine feeling calm when you look at your accounts. Imagine living without the weight of emotional survival. Imagine opening your eyes in the morning and feeling, today I am guided. Today I am sustained. Today, divine good expresses itself in my life. See your financial life organized, doors beginning to open, opportunities arriving naturally, the flow increasing, solutions appearing at the right time. Visualize abundance entering your life in unexpected ways, perhaps through an opportunity, through an idea, through a connection, through a conversation, through an inspiration, through a path you cannot yet fully see, but which has already begun to move invisibly. Now imagine your home in peace, your mind in peace, your heart lighter. Imagine yourself living with freedom, dignity, and prosperity. Feel it as though it has already begun. That is the secret. Not waiting for the future in order to feel abundance, but allowing the emotion of abundance to exist now. Because what you feel repeatedly begins to become familiar to your mind. And what becomes familiar stops seeming impossible. Breathe deeply once more and notice. Perhaps you are no longer the same person who began listening to this message. Perhaps something within you has awakened, a new perception, a new energy, a new relationship with prosperity. And even if everything has not yet changed externally, internally, the movement has begun. Now, I want you to turn this moment into a commitment to your new reality. Because there is power in what you declare. There is strength when the mind stops merely thinking and begins affirming. So write in the comments with true intention, I receive my divine good now. Write it slowly. Feel every word as a decree, as a spiritual authorization, as a new position before life. And as you write it, observe how you feel. Perhaps part of your mind will try to doubt. Perhaps old thoughts will appear saying, that is impossible. That has never happened to me. Who am I to live this? But do not fight those voices. Simply continue choosing a new direction. Because every transformation begins first as an inner decision. I also want you to share which decree touched your soul most deeply today. Was it the moment you said, I am abundance? Was it when you declared, my word has power? Was it when you affirmed, I stop begging for what already belongs to me by divine right? Or was it when you recognized, infinite intelligence guides my paths? Share it, because when many people unite in one frequency of faith, something powerful happens. You realize you are not alone. There is an entire community awakening to a new consciousness. People who are tired of living only in fear and have begun choosing abundance, peace, expansion, and divine right. And perhaps this is the beginning of your new story. If this message spoke to your heart, let this energy continue to grow. Save these words. Repeat them. Write them down. Speak them when you wake. Speak them before you sleep. Speak them when fear tries to return to the throne of your mind. Because transformation does not happen only in one instant. It happens in repetition, in constancy, in what you choose to feed every day. Every time you choose a word of faith instead of a word of fear, something changes. Every time you choose gratitude instead of complaint, something opens. Every time you choose trust instead of anxiety, an invisible door begins to move. Every time you affirm your divine good, your mind learns a new direction. And remember, your word is creative. Your faith opens ways. Gratitude multiplies good. Intuition leads you to right action. Abundance does not need to arrive through suffering. It can arrive with peace, order, clarity, and blessing. Before we finish, take one more deep breath. Allow these final words to find space within you. What belongs to me by divine right has already begun to move invisibly. Even though my eyes cannot yet see it completely, paths are being prepared. Opportunities are drawing near. Doors are beginning to open. Ideas are awakening. The right people are arriving. Solutions are forming in perfect order. I trust the process. I trust the transformation that began within my consciousness. I trust the divine intelligence that guides my steps. I trust the word of faith I have planted today. Because when the mind changes, the energy changes. And when the energy changes, reality slowly begins to respond. Continue protecting your words. Continue feeding your new identity. Continue decreeing abundance instead of repeating scarcity. And little by little, what once seemed impossible begins to feel natural. May abundance, peace, and prosperity find you in every path. May your mind remain aligned with trust, expansion, and the certainty that something greater is guiding your steps. May your words be clean, powerful, and filled with light. May your heart stop fearing and begin receiving. May divine goods circulate freely in your life. And always remember, the universe responds to what you decide to believe deeply. Life reorganizes itself when your consciousness rises. Prosperity appears when you stop speaking from lack and begin speaking from faith. Now declare softly, with peace and authority, I speak the word of faith, and divine order now opens my way. And if you wish to seal this new consciousness, write in the comments, I speak the word of faith, and divine order now opens my way. Because from this moment forward, you no longer speak as someone who begs. You speak as someone who remembers spiritual power. Your word is alive. Your faith is awake. Your path is opening. And divine abundance begins now.